Hello, this is me, David Antonelli. I'm back for Inbetween Diary of a Film. This is tutorial number 19. We're almost finished. Just one more to go after this, where I'm taking you step by step through my film Inbetween from its inception to its completion and promotion in order to give you an idea of what you need to do to make your first independent feature film. Okay, so today we're talking about post-production, all the shooting's done, and you're feeling so great, you know, it's all over. What am I going to do next? You can't wait to see the rushes, i.e. the film footage. Well, what you have to do now is basically patiently, meditatively go through all of the footage over and over and over again and just kind of let it wash over you. I took about a month. Just every day I'd come home from work and I'd look at it and I'd think about it. And sometimes I was wowed, like, oh my God, this is just the best scene ever filmed by anybody, you know. And other times I went, oh my God, this just doesn't work at all. And you got to get over that emotional phase, and you got to be realistic, and you got to let it kind of piece together in your mind, because the story you're going to tell might be slightly different than what you imagined it would be from the script. Now that you have the raw footage and you can't reshoot anything, you have to basically let it piece together to tell the best possible story you can with that footage, you know, maximizing the best footage, you know, minimizing the worst footage, or even omitting it completely, and putting together the best story you can, okay? And while you're doing this, you should also make sure you pay all your bills and pay all the actors as soon as you can, because actors often are working many jobs to get by, and you're not in the business to screw the actors, so pay them immediately, even if you have to go into debt to do so, okay? Never mistreat the actors. Okay, once you've done this, you have to start editing it together, piece by piece by piece, to tell the story. I use Final Cut Pro from Apple, and I assembled the film, and it was 3 hours and 45 minutes. My God, you know, I had to start cutting it back. There's no way a debut film can be 3 hours and 45 minutes. So I managed to get it to like 3 hours and 10 minutes, you know. So I was less self-indulgent. I took out parts, you know, that I kind of thought, wow, this is such a great scene. We have to keep the whole thing, and kind of go, well, no, you have to think what the viewer is going to think. And so I watched the film over and over again. And when I finally pieced it together, I watched it again and again. And then then once you've done that, you have to start doing a couple things. You color correct it. Now, this Inbetween had some dark sequences and some sequences that were shot inside with kind of warm yellow light, and some with more blue light. And I color corrected the entire thing to shift the entire thing towards blue, because blue is colder. It's more, it's better for an action film. If you've ever seen sort of an action suspense film, they're always kind of blue shifted and not warm. The kind of warm films are often like romantic comedies. And when I did that, it made the film somewhat darker, so I had to brighten it. And then, of course, it being low resolution mini DVD, it sort of made some scenes to be a little bit fuzzy, you know, so I had to sharpen them. But it took me about 6 weeks, believe it or not, to actually color correct the whole thing, so it was consistent, and so all the transitions were perfect, and everything was edited properly. I didn't break the axis, which is like an editing rule where you don't, you know, go from, you know, character A and here, B there, and cut to a scene where they're flipped over like that. Of course, Antonioni did this all the time, but it creates kind of an unsettling feeling when you're always breaking the axis, and that's what he wanted, but that's not what I wanted. So anyway, once you do that, then you have to take care of the sound, and we had to go through and make sure all the sound was consistent. And there were scenes like the National Gallery scene. It's an echo chamber there, and you could hear our footsteps, you know, the cameraman, the sound man. You could hear the wire, you know, kind of clacking against the floor, the wire connecting the boom to the camera, believe it or not. And so we had to cut those parts out and replace them with ambient noise. You know, and we could do that only when the characters weren't talking. So when they're talking, you could suddenly hear, the clacking in the background. And then when there's a pause, there's no clacking. There's just ambient noise. And so we did that. And then we also had to put in the soundtrack. And the soundtrack was written by Chrissy Van Dyke, who did the performance for us in Birmingham. That was set up by John Mostyn, the former manager of the Fine Young Cannibals. And it was a wonderful soundtrack. I wanted it to be kind of a Zen, kind of meditative soundtrack, kind of like in Mike Leigh's film Naked. And she did that, but she sort of mixed it with a kind of Vangelis type sound. And it just worked perfectly. And it's kind of ominous, that goes throughout the whole film and gives it this kind of Zen feeling. And that added so much to the film. And then you have to put in the special effects, all the fires in the film, the bombings, the bullets, the little smoke in the sniper scene he's being shot at. There's puffs of smoke, and that's basically I used a package called Boris effect, and it integrated with Apple Final Cut Pro, and I could put in all the fire, digital, and then in the Tower Bridge scene, I had to put in digital rain because when we started it was raining like hell, and then when we finished shooting it an hour later, it had stopped raining and dried up, but this was supposed to be 5 minutes. So I put in a massive amount of digital rain throughout the entire sequence, so you don't even really notice that there's no rain on the ground at the end, but there is a lot at the beginning over this 5-minute span. So you basically have to cover up the little mistakes, and there will be mistakes. So I even see some films in which you can see a shadow of the boom, and they probably thought, oh, well, no one will notice it. Well, we don't have the money anyway to reshoot it. So there will be little mistakes, and you have to cover them all up. And then when that's all done, you basically have your film, okay? And then you have to put in titles at the beginning, and I took a lot of effort to use various software packages to put in the titles for Inbetween, and at the end the credits and everything. And at the beginning I put some of the credits mentioned the top maybe 8 actors or something at the beginning, and me, the director, and the assistant director, and then at the end I put in the total credits. So you got to put that all in, and you want to basically make the whole thing cohesive. And I thought that the titles that I use at the very beginning are very jittery, kind of like a TV screen going shh, and the names kind of darting across, and it gives you this kind of sense of being kind of boxed in and paranoid, which is what the film kind of conveys. So anyway, that's post-production. It lasted for me, it probably was about 4 months of solid work. And when I thought I was done, I watched the film at my mom's house on her TV. It was one of these old tube TVs, and I thought, oh my God, it's terrible. And I couldn't sleep. I could not sleep at all. I thought it was so bad. And then I went back and edited it more and more. And then finally I watched it, on a much better screen. And I thought, actually, this is actually quite good, and so I was finally happy with it. And that whole process was like 4 or 5 months. So be prepared to spend a lot of time on it. So that is the post-production, okay? Now, if you watch a film and like it, you can actually, in the links, you can watch the film in 4 parts on YouTube. You can also read the novel. You can buy it on Amazon or anywhere else as an ebook or a real paperback from La Toison d'Or Books. See that? And my new novel, which is much more modernist, it's like Peter Handke meets Franz Kafka. It's kind of very surreal and absurdist and modernist. It came out last year. That's also available. So anyway, thanks for listening. And next week we are going to do, marketing and distribution. Okay, so thanks for listening, and I hope to see you again.